Oh, they definitely did not. It did not run the intro music or the visuals or anything like that. So I guess I'm steering the ship. So as you can see, the weekend spread. We are without our fearless leader Bobby, who is the owner, co-founder, or founder, producer of everything. The weekend spread, the Schooner Pod, and yeah, I thought you could just click the button and everything would pop up, but it doesn't. So a
Yeah.
little bit of a different audience today. We got Tylee, we got Boatin Blake, and it's just the two of us. It is just the two of us. We've had Jameson host some shows in the past. Bobby, our main host. We are not host, and we are just going at this.
I really hope I don't know how the vertical thing is showing on your end, Blake, but it is horrifically botched somehow.
Yeah,
Okay, now it's
maybe
on the
maybe
full
I'm just
screen.
not going to do it. We don't need any branding
Okay.
for the show.
Well, so we're excited to be here though. This is just a ball nowhere only podcast. We don't need the fancy graphics to distract from our lack of ball knowledge like other people do. So we're here to shoot y'all straight about these games. None of that fluff, none of that feel good stuff that Bobby tries to interject. So they have fortunately waited until OU's done playing to let Blake and I host one together. We are excited to get into some of these playoff games. I will say this is excitingly some of the first times that I've looked at a playoff slate and thought, yeah, I don't really care if I watch that game.
Yeah, I would say the matchups, I think, especially after the first round, are don't inspire, I guess, too much hope for me. It was like really the only interesting game, and or like I guess there was two interesting games, and one being OU Alabama, which was just kind of interesting for all the wrong reasons. It was a just offensive score fest, but because of potentially some OU turnovers, and then we kind of got the opposite one the next day, where it was Texas A&M, Miami, defensive slugfest. Offenses couldn't move the ball till about the final 2 minutes of the game. And you get, I guess, a stunning and stellar finish, but everything leading up to that felt more like an Iowa football game.
Yeah, and the most important takeaway from that Texas A&M Miami game that of course you've probably seen this. I know everyone listening has probably seen or heard this at this point, but if Notre Dame lost to both of those teams, then yeah, they absolutely did not deserve to be
Yep.
in the playoffs. Those were stinky teams. I think JMU would have had a shot against either of those teams the way they were
It
playing the other day.
Yeah, if anything, that first weekend of the playoff just kind of cemented in my mind that we made it too big. Like it's we've reached the point where I just feel like these games there isn't 12 good enough teams that are going to produce produce reasonable results on the field that is like, ooh, this is actually an interesting game to watch. It's going to take till the quarterfinal round and potentially even the semifinal round. I know we're about to dive into these games more specifically, but I expect there's probably at least going to be another blowout or two on our hands.
Yeah, we should probably just go ahead.
Yep. Oh no, I can't hear you now.
Oh, I accidentally muted myself. I think we should really just get into it. I think Bobby has given us Miami, Ohio State as the first one he wants us to pick in this order, and I think that's a perfect segue. I don't think this one's going to be very competitive.
Nope. This one is going to be, I think, just blowout central. Miami, we saw their defensive chops. It looks like they're actually a pretty decent defense. Like I'll give them that. It's going on the road in Texas A&M, 11 o'clock game. That's kind of a tough atmosphere, especially for an Aggies team that is just so desperate to see some success. They can't seem to see it against a rival. They can't seem to see it again in big games, but Miami's defense is going to travel, but that offense just looks so stinky behind Carson Beck. Carson Beck really was not able to get going at all versus Texas A&M. They basically just had to press the just halfback dive each play by the end of the game, which was their only like semblance of offensive success. But I just think, yeah, this one I think is going to be a pretty big blowout. I think Ohio State way too well rounded. Their offense seems to be clicking. Uh, the loss versus Indiana really doesn't bother me at all. I feel like this Ohio State team, if we've seen last year, I don't care what I see in the regular season, they're going to turn it up a notch in the postseason. I think this one's going to be a splattering in Arlington.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, I was wrong earlier in the year about Ohio State, specifically in that Indiana game, but I think I was more wrong about Indiana than I was about Ohio State, if that makes sense. I was just blinded by, I just hadn't seen Indiana, and I had to see it to believe it, what that team was able to produce. Miami is not that team, and I think, like you said, we're late enough in the season. It's Ohio State. We know they can pull it off in the postseason. We know they can pull it off in the playoffs. They're proven top to bottom. They're better rounded, and yeah, you look at that Miami team, and look, right. I'm an OU fan. We lost the first round of the playoff, but what Miami did in that first round, not super awe inspiring, not really confidence inspiring in me when I look at, okay, now what's their ability to defeat a much more solid team that has had much more time to rest and prepare. I really don't think I'm not going to sit here and say that Ohio State doesn't care about the Big Ten championship. They absolutely do. But Ohio State cares about the postseason a lot. These guys are locked in. These guys are invested. And it's not to say that Miami isn't, but yeah, I think this one is going to be an easy. What's the line on this? Do you know? Like
It
8.5,
is
6.5, 8.5, something like
see,
that.
yeah, I know it kind of opened around the 8.5. Why is ESPN make it so hard to find lines? Um, let's
I
see.
wonder why
Oh, it's
their
nine and a half.
ESPN bet
Nine and
doesn't
a
work.
half.
It's 9.5. That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy for
Uh,
the second round of the playoffs. I know that doesn't sound like a lot. That's a lot. That's crazy
a lot on a neutral
for
site
Vegas.
game.
For Vegas to be saying a neutral site second round playoff game is going to be a 9.5 point game potentially that's wild.
Yeah, like this, it feels like Miami's only path to at least trying to make this close and covering the spread is you just got to slow it down. You just got to rely on that run game, kind of what got you to
I think they
got
will on
you.
offense. They don't have a choice on offense as long as they can stay on the field.
The problem is they get too cute. Like that's what they were trying to do against A&M. They were doing all like, if I could remove one play from football, the wide receiver screen would definitely be it because that's all Miami was trying to establish. And I don't know why. It wasn't going anywhere. I don't get it. If it doesn't work the first 5 times, it's not going to work the next 10 when they tried it. They just need a more simplified offensive game plan coming into this game. Just try to run it down their throats, keep it close by just having a low possession game, and just don't get beat over the top by this Ohio State offense. But I feel like
Yeah. Let me ask, is that wide receiver screen hate? Is that objective hate or is that Kendall Briles PTSD?
it's a little bit of Kendall
A
Briles
little bit of a
PTSD because Kendall Briles has like two plays. It's like wide receiver screen or slant across the middle whenever he needs like 5 yards, and it's
it's like
just
a
the
video
easiest.
game understanding of
Yeah,
it would
it's
work. It would work great in the video game.
I don't get it. I don't get the rarely do you see a wide receiver screen breaking for a touchdown. Usually if at best you're getting 5 yards, at worst it's just you're 3 yards behind.
The
The
third and
yeah,
long, and then you bust out the wide receiver screen. You're like, maybe
just
maybe this other receiver will block 4 guys and we'll get it here.
so Miami definitely got a little too cute versus A&M. They can't do the same against Ohio State, but yeah, this one just feels this one's going to get out of hand, I think, quickly, especially if Ohio State has some of those guys just running vertically. They just seem so much more even like I don't know, they seem scarier than even last year's team, and last year's team was just rolling people come playoff time.
Yeah.
I trust the quarterback play a little
It's
bit more. I liked
Yeah,
but
I was just gonna say it's crazy. You talked about your belief that the playoff is too big, which I also agree with. I it's hard to you're never gonna put the genie back in the bottle, and especially with the on-campus first rounds, that's an unbelievably cool thing. You're never gonna make it smaller, but yeah, there's never been a time in college football where 12 teams have a serious chance of being the national champion. That's
yeah.
not how college football works. It's not like four really was like four had its problems, but I really don't think there's ever been more than four teams that reasonably are like could compete for the best in college football. So I don't know, but yeah, this one it's unfortunate that we're getting to a point where now this Ohio State team, really the two times that most people have seen them this year are the Texas game and then the loss to Indiana in the Big Ten championship. They're about to play this Miami team that I don't think is really going to test it. Right, Miami could backdoor, absolutely. Like this could be messier, closer than we think. But I think we're going to see this Ohio State team getting deep into the playoffs before we really even know anything about this team for sure. I believe you. It's Ohio State. They very well could be scarier than last year. I think they're a little less scary, but again, I haven't seen them, and
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where it's like, are we even going to see? Like potentially, we're not even going to see what this Ohio State team is until we get into like the national championship or something, depending on the way that this pans out.
That's just like classic Big Ten scheduling for you. You don't actually know how good these teams are because they really haven't had to play anyone. And if we didn't have that Texas game, we would have even less data points for this Ohio State
Yeah.
team. So it is like there. I guess there is some uncertainty when it comes to okay, what are they going to look like in these big moments? Just don't think Miami's the team that's going to test them. I just don't. I think
Mhm.
wait till the next round.
Yeah.
But
And speaking of next, I think it's time to jump into the next game. I'm not going to sit here and say that every other team in college football isn't paying to win, but the literal pay to win championship, Texas Tech versus Oregon. We got two teams squaring off. I'm excited to watch this one. I'm very, very excited to watch this one. I'm a bit of an Oregon homer, but I think that this is a pretty solid matchup. I rate these two teams pretty evenly. And I think this should be an exciting matchup between two very excitable fan bases. Well, excitable fan base in Texas Tech's case, and an excitable coach. If Dan Lanning wasn't the head coach of Oregon, spiritually he would be a Texas Tech fan. It's a very similar vibe. So I'm very excited to see this one. I hope that my Duckies are going to come out on top, but I think that of all the games coming up, this one has the potential to be the most electric of them all, in my opinion.
yeah, and I do agree with that. Like it's not to give any praise to Texas Tech, but I think these are going to be two pretty evenly matched teams. It's like Texas Tech has kind of flipped the script on what has made them, or I guess successful in the past. They haven't really seen this is the biggest success they've ever seen in their entire program's history. But they have flipped the script in the sense this is not an offensive led team. It is by far like it is on their defense, and their defense is going to win them games. Are they going to win this game? Absolutely not. I think Dante Moore and the Duckies just absolutely roll over them. I think we kind of got this like sour perception of Oregon after that Indiana loss that we now kind of know Indiana's a pretty good team and just not stellar Big Ten play. But the thing is, they kept on winning games. Like this is a very well-rounded squad. I think one that is probably about the same caliber as last year. It just like it sucks that we never got to see that team really in any bigger game besides that Rose Bowl where they just got completely blown out by Ohio State. But I think Oregon rolls here. I really 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 like the Duckies. I'm just yeah. I Tech Tech really has played nobody this year. They've played absolutely nobody. They played BYU and they have their number, but I won't be convinced otherwise. They didn't have to play ton of this like any of the really big stellar teams. I guess they did play Utah, they did play BYU, and they did play Arizona State, which are stellar Big 12 schools, but I'm just not buying it. I think they're just complete
Yeah.
frauds. I think they get
The
blown out on the national stage.
the Big 12 certainly had a more down year when it comes to being a little more top heavy. It was certainly a very competitive conference. Anyone could hurt anyone in the nation any given week, but yeah, you didn't have those teams that were just constantly, Arizona State year ago, 2 years ago now, at TCU of recent years, come to mind. So it's Texas Tech. I look at them and it's obviously the Big 12 is not necessarily a mega conference, but that's kind of the way that college football is going nowadays with these mega conferences. We talked about it with Ohio State's scheduling. You can look at, I was seeing a bunch of stuff on social media earlier about Mizzou's scheduling and the SEC with what's going on with the SEC sort of mega conference and how there's these teams that float through on reputation and play legitimately no one except for games that they lose, like Mizzou always does. And then it's just, yeah, it's weird. Texas Tech is not Mizzou. They are a very solid team. They've invested a ton in that team. But yeah, I'm just excited. Like you talked about, Texas Tech. If you haven't been watching Texas Tech football, you hear Texas Tech's in the playoffs. You're probably thinking, late 2000s, Mike Leach, 2010s, Texas Tech, where they're going to be out there just absolutely gunning for people. That's not the core DNA of this team. And I think it matches up in a very interesting way with this Oregon squad that is very offensive minded. Like we just talked about, I think this just has tremendous potential to be really solid football. Like these two teams, their strengths and weaknesses come together in a way that, regardless of score, should be an interesting game. And yes, Oregon has put up some stinkers, right? The Iowa game was not pretty. What was that, like 18-16 or something, like weird score, commie score that's like inexcusable. I think looking at the season in hindsight, you might say that Penn State win was not super impressive in overtime, but that was the win that broke Penn State. That broke Penn State. Penn State was a serious national championship contender until Oregon went there and just broke them. And for some reason, it was just they never recovered, and that's what led to the downfall of Penn State's about to enter the dark ages, I think, because of that Oregon win. So.
That game, that Penn State team, the week before that game and the week after, are two completely different teams in my mind. I don't get why that was the game of all games that broke them, because really it was a great effort by them. It was like an overtime game, like you lose a close one. Like, granted, that's what James Franklin was doing his entire James Franklin did his entire tenure, but like, damn, I did not see that one to be the one to come off the rails. But that's just how it goes. But look, I think the thing here, the X factor, Texas Tech, I think they just have that like losing DNA still in them. That's the thing. It's like they're just they love to blow it in the biggest moments. And a program that is being built solely off of the checkbook of one donor, I don't know. There's just something about it. Like, they're not going to see any real success in this playoff. I think it's just going to be, they're going to spend money for the next few years, maybe make a playoff or two more, and just never see any success. And they can't figure out why. But it's just like Texas Tech. It's not a winning brand. It's not a winning culture. They don't have, I don't think, a winning coach. I'm not a big Joey McGuire guy. I know, he's basically, yeah, it's a Ferrari on autopilot right now. Like, he doesn't have to do a thing, but these are the games you actually have to do something, and I think he'll just come up short.
Yeah, well, interesting. I don't know if anyone's necessarily framed this as a battle of coaches here, but I would certainly probably rather have Dan Lanning.
Dan Lanning. A million times out of a million. And he does seem like he's like a Lubbock type of guy. Just, I know he has that like insane tattoo of his wife on his like rib cage. That's super weird. He gives off that vibe. But yeah, this is a program, sadly, or like a game of two programs that just can't seem to get it done in the biggest moments. So I think that's gonna create. This could be just an all-timer. This could just be an all-timer.
I hope so. But if you've watched any Oregon football in the past couple of years from a sort of Oregon perspective, as I do, because I like the Duckies when they're not playing OU, but Dan Lanning has this thing where he gets super emotionally involved in the game on like both ends, like positive and negative. He gets involved in the roller coaster, and it causes them to have major issues if they get up by more than a touchdown. It could be like an offensive shootout, and if they get up by 10 points in the second quarter, they're ready to coast. Like he's on the sideline celebrating. Like it's why they're so atrocious against the spread. Like they enter into this like way too early, almost Lincoln Riley-esque as an OU fan, ability to back off, or I guess Brent Venables in the postseason ability to get up big on someone and then just absolutely blow it. So that does worry me a little bit with a team the caliber of Texas Tech, that Oregon could get up legitimately by 10 points like early on and then just squander it, because it's so much harder to get back on the gas after you've let off. So that does worry me. But yeah, I think Oregon is absolutely my pick in this one, even if I were to look at this objectively.
Yep. Then we saw Dan Lanning, although it wasn't consequential. It wasn't like James Madison was coming back. They kind of got up big early, took the foot off the gas, didn't get that cover. And I know you're just trying to win
Yeah.
games. You're rested some guys at that point, but it seems like a symptom that he loves to take his foot off the gas
Yeah. I mean,
but
JMU is a little more excusable, correct? You're in the
yeah,
playoffs. You know that you're going to win that one. Like, that one's a little more excusable than some of his. Like, there's just been some games this season where you're just screaming at, like, I think Wisconsin, they kind of did the same thing. Like, it's interesting. But that brings us to our next one, which I do think is actually a fairly solid, fairly interesting matchup, and that
I
is
think so too.
Indiana versus Alabama. And everyone can sit here and say this shouldn't be a matchup because Bama shouldn't be there. Again, as an OU fan, it's I guess I don't know what I can and can't say on that, but I think it's an exciting match. It's one that I'm just not like. I feel like from a fan perspective, Texas Tech, Oregon, like those are big enough brand names. It's going to be a cool color matchup. Like the coaches are going to have good sound bites and stuff. Alabama, Indiana just doesn't inspire a whole lot of like excitement in me. I feel like if you're not a big fan of either of these teams, this is one of those games where it's just like, I see why this should be a good football game. I'm probably going to watch the entire thing. But at the same time, it's like I don't really want to. Like it's just not exciting. It's not quite to chore level, but it's just not an exciting matchup for some. I don't know if you
It's
agree.
if you
No one could agree with me, but this doesn't inspire. I want to see the post game press conference of what these people say because I know it's going to be amazing. But this doesn't seem like an interesting game.
Yeah, it's one of those that I feel like if you flip the numbers, if you made Alabama 1, Indiana 9, and Indiana being like seeing what we saw in the field, I think that creates a lot more intrigue. I just can't get behind a game where it's like Bama is the like a touchdown dog against an Indiana team that's the losingest program in the Power Five. It is so hard for me to wrap my mind around, and it's why I feel like I'm kind of leaning towards like Bama money line. Although I've seen this Indiana team perform and they went into Oregon, won that game, won a neutral site game against Ohio State, like beating some quality competitors. And for some reason, just my brain is telling me because this program hasn't won anything. Like we make fun of Texas Tech, but they're like the kings of 8-4. Like Indiana could barely even reach 8-4 for most of their history. So I don't know if this is just like the brands to be, and still can't be convinced behind Indiana, but I was impressed. Like I was impressed by Bama against OU. At least they had some resolve. Granted, I think a lot was handed to them to get that momentum going back on their side. Like I think OU played a huge part in that, but I liked what I saw out of Ty Simpson. I liked what I saw out of the resolve of those guys to just stay in there. You're down by 17 and ultimately end up winning by double digits. Like that is very impressive to me. Scary thing though about Alabama, and I still think I'm gonna hit them on the money line. That run game sucks. It's really bad. I don't get how you have some dogs on the offensive line like Bama does, and you just can't run the ball. And especially a school that pumps out a lineage of some of like the greatest college running backs of all time. How have you not had a guy recently that feels like he can take over the game? It's Jam Miller. Like he can't do anything. It's the part of their game that it just seems like they can't consistently get it going, and it's just basically all on Ty Simpson through the air to make things happen. And I don't think these Bama receivers have been like fantastic this year. So
Yeah, and Ty Simpson, I think, obviously done what he's needed to do, but has not been very impressive. Like there was a point in the OU Alabama game where it looked like both quarterbacks were needing to be investigated for just blatantly trying to fix the game. Like it was Ty Simpson has been so bad at certain points in the season that Alabama fans have been making come back, we miss you, Jaden Milrow edits, which is unthinkable. Like it's so yeah. Indiana, we have to give them their flowers. If they had any
mhm.
other brand, people would think about them completely differently. Like Indiana, if they were if they had Penn State's brand, and then you looked
Yeah.
at their resume, Heisman winning quarterback, Big Ten champions, undefeated, went toe to toe with Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, was their only loss of the season. Like I frankly, I think if Indiana had Wisconsin's branding, and then you looked at their resume, they would still be like, oh yeah, that's the number one team in the nation. So that does factor into it. 2 years in a row now, they've made it a decent run, and that is something that has to be respected. But yeah, I have reached a state this season of college football where I felt like the theme in previous seasons was a lot of the time the funniest possible thing could occur. This season, I'm just like, what's the worst, like darkest, most like spiritually evil thing that could occur? Is that going to occur? Probably. And to me, you look at the bracket, we could have an Alabama versus Georgia national championship. And
That would
that's the
just feel
most
so
evil.
wrong.
That's the most evil. The Big Ten might refuse to play. I don't want that. Let me be clear. I understand I'm a fan of an SEC team. I do not want that. I want both of those teams to lose this round. I don't want either of those teams to advance beyond this round. But Bama just continuing to beat people when they probably shouldn't have been in the playoff in the first place is just the evilest possible thing that could occur. So I feel like that's the most likely thing. As I do enjoy Indiana. I will say I was down on them. I was mean to them. I didn't watch them. I didn't believe Fernando Mendoza's solid. He's a solid dude. And I think he's the
Very.
kind of dude that you want leading a national champion run college football team. And
He he's for sure going to be like, I think, a great NFL quarterback. It's rarely do you see
yeah,
these days. It's like a lot of uber talent, but like they don't have the brain necessarily, I feel like, to shoulder on the quarterback position. And when I watch him play, I'm like, not that he's Andrew Luck, because Andrew Luck was
yeah.
immensely talented, but like he kind of gives me that vibe of like really nerdy guy that's like
I mean,
that's
this is
probably a little into trains and
yeah.
just happens to be like really good at football. And
I'm
I
sure a
just
million people have made this comp. I am not even going to claim to be the million and one person that has made this comp, but it's literally just Kirk Cousins with a Heisman.
yeah.
Like that's what he is. He is Kirk Cousins with a Heisman, and I think it's going to trade. He has the size. If
Yeah.
Diego Pavia is 6 feet tall, then Fernando Mendoza is like 6'7". So
Jeez, yeah.
go ahead and I think he's got a solid future, and he's absolutely going to be the best quarterback in the building when this game is played, unless I don't know, like Tom Brady comments or something on the game. But also shout out to Tom Brady the other day in the booth wearing no glove on his throwing hand. Did you see
Yeah.
that?
Yes, the
It's sensational. But yeah, I like Indiana, but I want Indiana to win. But if I'm picking this game, I have to just assume that the darkest possible thing will occur, and that's a Bama win.
that would just suck. We've like gone so far in this sport that it's like NIL is kind of, I think, flattened it a little bit where your traditional powers can't just stockpile talent like your Bamas of old, your Georgias of old did, where it's just like their too deep is like their second team is just as good, like is probably like a top tier SEC team even in waiting. So I just pray, like I pray this game is good. I would love an Indiana win. Like we need I need Indiana to at least make it to the semifinals.
Yeah.
I think this team is very good. They have the wins, the resume wins. It's just I don't know. I'm with
I
you. I'm
mean,
kind of like you. It just seems dark, and this would be the most college football thing of all time. Is the moment you start believing in kind of the underdog programs and stuff like that. Just the big bad blue blood just comes and runs them over.
I know Tech fans would be upset, but Indy is kind of the one piece that disproves. I mean, you look at what's happening to Ohio State, or Iowa State, not Ohio State, Iowa State right now, and they're just getting hollowed out. Like they are
They are.
not even a shell of a team. They've straight up been hollow. What do they have? Like 17
Yeah,
scholarship
it's like
players or
16 or
something.
17 players on the
Yeah,
roster right now.
as of now, yeah, and those guys are probably shopping around as we speak. Like it's Indiana's kind of the one big example. Tech fans will be upset, but like Tech has absolutely bought their way in. I'm not going to say that they're a
Yeah, that's
historic
it's
legacy, but Indiana has historically been the worst team in FBS. In D1 FBS, Indiana is the losingest team of all time. They obviously it's part of it's because they've been in it since the beginning, basically, and some other people haven't. But it's Indiana went from literally the worst to 2 very solid years now, right? Like it's
yeah.
obviously once the coach leaves, they're going to get hollowed out too. They could very well get hollowed out next year. Some of these players, they don't match some returning production, but I like some of these teams are getting just straight up like you make the Cinderella run, but you're going to get hollowed. Like it's almost that there's a saying over in Asia that basically comes down to like the tallest piece of grass is going to get cut. Like you get this JMU season where you have this amazing, greatest season in the history of your team, and your reward is you're getting hollowed out. Everyone's
That's
portaling, everyone's getting
one
sucked out. Like you get nothing. And
one of my favorite bits, like ongoing bits right now in college football, is everybody saying that G5 doesn't belong, they shouldn't be in the playoffs, and then like every major P5 program immediately wanting to hollow their staff, their players. They want every part about that program. They don't belong there. They're not good enough, but also like we want your coach, your quarterback, we want all your offensive linemen, we want the receivers. Like these programs, it's like I get it. Like they might not be on the talent deposit coming out of like they were probably only 3-star guys, but they've obviously been able to develop. And yeah, it's just kind of it's become very funny that it's like these programs, it's success. Honestly, like you want to see success for your team, but honestly, you're a little scared of it because it means a complete restart of where you are.
yeah.
So
I was gonna say real quick, basketball has it figured out because they just let the top programs hollow out the bottom of the NBA, and they just let them take up straight pros now, and it
it is
saves the bum team. So maybe JMU would be saved if the Alabamas of the world could just skim practice squad members from the Chargers day in and day out.
that's why I'm like, why can't after seeing some of these rulings and like the G Leaguers that are playing in NBA games this year, going back to college basketball, why can't LeBron? Like, why can't he just go to college? Because
LeBron,
he never played a
that is
second
true.
in
Yeah,
college. Like he has a better case than some of these other guys where it's like went to call
yeah.
or like wait like had
KD
some.
KD played a year, right? He should have 3 years. Probably
No, he
COVID
didn't
year
even
in there
play.
too.
He was like OG before he even had to do a year in college. So
No,
he has all.
KD played at Texas,
Oh yeah.
didn't he? Yeah, just for
Yeah.
a year.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about LeBron, but yeah.
Oh, no,
KD.
yeah, I know LeBron didn't, but it's yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see Colin Kaepernick on a college football roster. I would rather have him than John Mateer, and he'd probably get better interviews too. So
Yep.
I think he
I
can at least read.
I agree. I think I'm starting to workshop an idea that we should get rid of the NBA in-season tournament, like the NBA Cup or whatever, and just allow the best players to go like play in March Madness. Kind of how like international soccer, they give them like their whenever like the national teams are playing, like you get a break for that. I think we just take off like
No,
NBA in
see,
March and you could just go join if
you say that until Kentucky leverages some sort of horse connection through the Derby or something to get the Joker to come play for Kentucky like every March Madness. They just
jeez.
Jokic up in there because he gets to like ride in the Derby or something because of Kentucky, and they're just stacking championships.
Honestly, it's like if we're gonna get weird with this, just go full weird. Don't no half measures at this point. But finally, I think we've come to our last playoff game, a rematch, which I hate. This is the part about the playoffs I hate, a rematch of a game that I've kind of seen this one before. Georgia versus Ole Miss. We saw Ole Miss go into Athens earlier this year. Hung in there for a little bit, but then ultimately just looked outclassed. It looked like Georgia's just the significantly better team. I think this one goes sideways. I think it was fine with Ole Miss not last week, but last game where it's like you don't have Lane Kiffin. You're going up against a Tulane team where the Tulane head coach is splitting his time between
Yeah,
between two programs.
yeah,
Like you're
openly
not
coaching both places. Like
you're not going heavily against one, but yeah, I think this one's a blowout. I think this one gets really, really, really nasty.
yeah, I agree. I will say this one, I'm at least excited to watch, if only for a quarter or two, however long it stays mathematically within reach. I think it's just a interesting storyline. You want to see what Ole Miss can cook up, with an interim head coach and with the people that have remained on that roster, and it is a compelling storyline. But yeah, Georgia is obviously has not been perfect this season. They've had their stumbles. They've had, they should have lost that Tennessee game. Um, Fortunately for Tennessee, their kicker just botched that one for them. That was a very makeable field goal, or should have been. But this Georgia team is not necessarily the Georgia of old, like you talked about, right? The portal and NIL has changed things to make these top teams not necessarily any less powerful, but certainly they lack the depth and they become much more brittle in that sense, where you're much more dependent on your handful of starters. You see a much larger drop if people have to rotate out, and you're much more susceptible to injuries, penalties, things like that. So that's certainly a factor. This is absolutely not the Georgia of old, but I don't think that a hobbled Ole Miss team that has they've done everything they needed to do. It's not on the players,
Yeah.
but I think that unfortunately you lose a bit of momentum, and it's like this sounds like a bit of a catch 22. This sounds like I'm just hating on them, but I think I wish Jameson were here because he loves these little sports psychology bits. I feel like you lose a little bit of your momentum having that first round and then winning it against Tulane.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing. I'm not saying that they were just going to waltz in and win that game by doing nothing, but it's like the Cinderella story can only take you so far. And you can only ride on that hate. You can only ride on that we're being disrespected so much. And I think you lose a little bit of that already by winning. You lose a little bit of that by the time that has elapsed. And I think you just run into a buzzsaw with this Georgia squad that can put up points on you. We've seen it get out of hand before with, I think, a much better iteration of this Ole Miss team. I think the Ole Miss team that lost to Georgia earlier in the season pretty handily defeats this Ole Miss team that is now in the playoffs. So very unfortunate, in my opinion, for the university, for the players, but that's just how it is sometimes. Sometimes you do everything right, and they have Trinidad Chambliss at least. They don't have to rely on John Mateer, and I would rather be abandoned by my coach than have to count on John Mateer. So at least you have that going for you, Ole Miss fans.
And I think it's just understated by the fact that Georgia having the bye, it's just Kirby Smart gets well over a month, like a month to plan for this team,
Yeah,
and he
and let's
knew it
be
was going to be
clear,
Ole
Kirby
Miss.
Smart was not preparing for Tulane
Yes,
at
like
all.
this just feels like Ole Miss is going to get picked apart. That they've already beat them once this year, and I think whenever Georgia did beat Ole Miss, they weren't even in their final form. The Georgia we saw in the final weeks of the season looked more like Georgia of old than what it was at the start of the season. I think the Georgia team is by far one of the teams that could compete for a national championship. I would love to see Georgia, Ohio State next round. I think that one would deliver in many ways because it's just two very well-rounded teams. Like one, a matchup we've seen in the past, but a matchup that has delivered. So yeah, I just think Ole Miss, it's in a way good that they had that first round game so they could just say like, yeah, Like we won one, and that felt great. It was in front of our home crowd and stuff like that. It's kind of like what happened with TCU in the Fiesta Bowl. It was like I was so glad that I had that moment where it's like that felt awesome. Like I got the thrill of the win, and then after we got trounced, it's like at least when I remember this season, it's not all bad. There still is a moment that I can hang my hat on. I think that's kind of Ole Miss. It's like you're gonna look back at this and be. I think Pete Golding is going to be maybe an all right coach, but he's no Lane Kiffin. Like Lane Kiffin is an incredible coach. It seems like wherever he goes, as of recent, they start winning. Elite recruiter. Like you kind of lost out on your golden goose. You're not going to get a coach, or you might get a coach as good as Lane Kiffin eventually, but it's keeping them, as we've seen, is the issue. So I guess good for Ole Miss. You have a playoff win that you could go back and be like, this is a very successful season, but I think this one's going to get ugly quick. I think this Georgia team's way better than when they played Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I think, is just not going to be as well coached. Kirby Smart with the months of prep, he's just, I think, going to eat them alive.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of the method now for some of these top teams, like a Georgia, hasn't been the path that Alabama's followed this year, but like in Indiana, like in Ohio State, a lot of these teams seem designed to really start peaking in the postseason because, like at this point with a 12-team playoff, especially when you have a brand like Georgia or like Alabama is a great example of this, you can be rolling in with a inordinate amount of losses in the regular season and just riding on your brand name, especially in Georgia's case where you generally retain the coaching staff and some of the other stuff that has seen past success. But yeah, so that wraps us up for playoff games for now, but we are going to rapid fire through. Does he want us to rapid fire through the rest of the bowls?
Yeah, we don't have too many. I think it's how many, like 8 or 9 bowl games left. Not too much. So the first one I think is tomorrow. It's the Independence Bowl. Coastal Carolina versus Louisiana Tech. And I have no opinions on this game.
2
I have
on a Tuesday.
2 p.m. 2 p.m. Tuesday. I'm looking at the transfer portal list, the injured.
Louisiana.
It's so bad. I'm looking at the amount of opt-outs, the amount of injuries, the amount of transfer portal. Both of these teams' lists feel like a mile long. It's
a 10-point spread.
Yeah, and this is an ugly one. I don't really have a good read. I'm gonna go Louisiana Tech because I feel like, I don't know, Sonny Cumbie, who used to coach for TCU, and he's a really bad coach, but he coaches there. I feel like he's always on the hot seat. I feel like this game means a little bit more for Louisiana Tech. I don't know. This feels like, yep, this is properly planned to be a middle of a Tuesday game, and probably for the better.
Is he the one that used to coach? Was he the head coach at SMU?
No.
Or was he was at SMU for a while?
No, Sonny Dykes was.
Oh, really? I get the Sonnies.
Yeah.
I get the Sonnies mixed
Yeah.
up. But yeah,
you somehow had 2 of them.
Basically, a home game for Louisiana Tech is in Ruston, Louisiana, I suppose, and they're going down to Shreveport. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna ride with Louisiana Tech here since Vegas has them as a 10-point favorites, and they're playing close to home. So I feel like when it's I don't even know. There's not even high school sports on Tuesdays. This is like a track meet. This is like a high school track meet time slot. You're just in an afternoon during a weekday. I understand it's December 30th, but
yeah, we had one today. We had the Birmingham Bowl randomly at 1 p.m.
Yeah, dude. Shreveport, Louisiana at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. It's
just gross.
I don't even know what else happens at that. It's just a very Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. That's a very Theo Vaughn sort of bowl game. Up next, we have the Liberty Mutual Music City Bowl, which is in Nashville, and it's Tennessee versus Illinois at 5:30. It's also tomorrow, isn't it? It is tomorrow, but 5:30. in Nashville is a much more respectable time slot and location than Shreveport, Louisiana. Sort of afternoon. I guess you hit your lunch break, you pop on over to the game real quick, and then you go back to work at I don't know what they have in Shreveport, but yeah, this is a decent matchup. I mean, Illinois started out the season ranked, started out the season pretty high expectations. Both teams are 8-4, 3.5 point line. So um, I don't know. What do you have on portals, injuries, and everything else for both these teams?
Yeah, it looks like it honestly pretty good. Like Tennessee has some opt-outs, like Chris Brazzell, like their top receiver. He's not going to be playing, but for the most part, a good amount of these like players are playing. Like I think this is going to be a sneaky banger of a bowl game, and I feel like that's what you kind of have to do is look at like kind of look at the opt-outs. If there's not many, we could get like another situation like Pop Tarts Bowl, where it's like two teams that actually want to compete. I am gonna go Illinois with this one. I know it's in Tennessee. I know the Vol fans are going to show out, but the vibes seem off around the Vols right now. Like they seem very off. And I think Josh Heupel has done honestly a great job at Tennessee. I think he's brought stability to a program that was honestly like just wandering the desert. It felt like with their last 10 head coaches before him. I really like him as a coach. I think he's doing a great job there, but it seems like Tennessee fans want him out. They're like they're ready to move on to the next guy, and I just don't get that. If you've seen anything about this coaching search this year, it's hard to find a good guy. It really
Hmm.
is. It's harder. It's getting harder and harder to pry these guys away from their current jobs. I think what he's done is great in a year where Tennessee, this was not like they're acting like 8-4 was bad. We had not good expectations for Tennessee coming into this year. We said they lost a lot of their talent from last year. They're going to be significantly worse, and they end up with a pretty good record. I just even with that, even with kind of glazing Tennessee, I just think Brett Bielema, Luke Altmaier, those guys, I just they feel like a program that's like your Kalani Sitakis at BYU, your Brent Keys at Georgia Tech, that they're playing every game to win. Like they realize they're not one of the traditionally good power programs. They realize that not every single year is going to have 8 or 9 wins. They're just going to play every game hard. I think I like Illinois in the spot. I just think 3.5, take the points, might even sprinkle a little bit on the money line because I just think they're gonna really try to win this game. This means something to them.
Yeah, I'm the opposite of you. I think I touched on a bit of the reason why earlier on, but it's Tennessee should have beaten Georgia. I understand that was at home, but to me, if one kick goes differently, Tennessee's probably not playing in this bowl game, but maybe you got a 9-3 Tennessee team that has a win over Georgia, who is presumably still in the playoff and otherwise doing as they are doing. So that's, I think to me, if this Tennessee team doesn't have a ton of opt outs, I think it's solid. And I echo what you said about Josh Heupel. I think maybe one thing from Vol's perspective is he has been there a bit. And I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you look at, and I don't know what it is, but Tennessee is not a, they're able to ball out on NIL. And if I'm a Tennessee fan and I'm looking at what Texas Tech is doing, what Indiana is doing, and what some of these other teams are doing that have traditionally been on the have not side of college football and how they are able to just use just money in some absolutely strategic hires, but primarily money, right? That's what enables everything else to achieve the status that they've achieved. If you're a Tennessee fan, I can understand why you're frustrated and looking at Josh Heupel and saying, okay, we had him before the portal, we had him before NIL. Is this a solid coach, but is this sort of the wrong meta? Is this the wrong build right now for what we need at a head coach? And is there something, maybe someone that we could bring in that's going to better utilize our considerable resources and what should be considerable recruiting potential and everything else? And for me, Tennessee is very similar, and I don't mean this as a slight, but Tennessee is very similar to like A&M or like to Penn State, where it's just it does reach a point where it's kind of inexplicable how much they have going for them and how they're able to constantly be solid. But like, how could you not constantly be solid with the foundations that those teams have? But at the same time, I think 10 wins. I think they get their, well, sorry, they're not actually a 9-win team. So they get their 9th win, I guess spiritual 10th win in my mind, and in some Vols fans' minds. But I think Tennessee gets the win in this one, and I think they continue to produce solid results. As much as I do understand why some of them are confused because they're spending less on NIL, they're recruiting on paper better athletes than some of these other places, and it is just, even excluding their schedule and the challenges that they have with that, they're still just not necessarily producing what they feel they should, which I do understand.
Yeah, and it just feels like if you made an all-star team of like Tennessee over the last 3 years, you would have a fantastic team. You just can't. The problem is they can't seem to put each unit together on a year-by-year basis. It was like
Yeah.
last year. It's like if they had the offense of this year last year, oh my god, like that would have been a way different team. But no, you had Nico leading that. Just like it honestly looked more closer to Iowa than it does Tennessee, and yeah, like it feels like they build one side of the ball really well and the other one just doesn't work. And they really need to they just need to be one of those teams that after 2 or 3 years, like hopefully from good recruiting, you can finally put it all together. Kind of like we've seen it a little bit with Penn State. It's like Penn State relies on their better years. It's like a lot of senior laden talent. You're not getting too much. Like you get a few portal guys, but you have to really rely on developing these guys. Like Tennessee needs that, but it just seems like each year it's like one side of the ball very good, other side very bad, and like next year it flip flops, and it's just they can't seem to
Yeah.
line it up correctly.
Speaking of lining things up correctly, the game, that segue makes no sense, but the game that we have all been waiting for, I'm very, very excited to watch this game. I love watching both of these teams. I know that you love watching at least one of these teams. I know that a lot of OU fans still have very strong feelings about one, potentially both of these teams. We're going down to San Antone, to the Alamo Dome at 9 p.m. Eastern time for the Valero Alamo Bowl. TCU versus Southern California. I am not hyping this up for the podcast. I'm very, very excited for this game. This is like one of the, if I could watch only like 3 or 4 bowl games this season, this would be one of them. I love this matchup. I love both of these teams like quiet quitting and just kind of floating into this game. The coaches, the location, this is bowl season to me.
This is like the Alamo Bowl, I feel like it's a ball knowers bowl. It seems to always deliver year in and year out of like good quality play with not necessarily like teams that are popping off the page ranked. It's like I feel like we get instant classics from this game more often than not. And it's just like a more what people and like the Pop-Tarts Bowl is deserved because of its marketing, branding, and like quality of opponents that they're putting into it. I think the Alamo Bowl kind of rivals it when it comes not from the branding perspective, but like from the actual football. It seems like we have 2 teams that this year that are trying, which is nice. Like USC is going to have some opt-outs, like Makai Lemon, your top receiver, like not expected to play. Like you're going to have some of those pro guys, but a lot on both sides of the ball. It's like a lot of these players are playing, and I think this actually means something for their respective programs. For USC, it's kind of solidifying that they have started to turn the corner. That Lincoln Riley, it might have taken them 4 years, but it has them on track to actually with the number 1 recruiting class this year, and like that win, you have them on track to potentially make a run at the Big Ten championship next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then TCU, you have Sonny Dykes, who I wouldn't say is necessarily on the hot seat per se, but there was definitely the seat was starting to get warm at the end of the year. If there wasn't any change at offensive coordinator, they got bailed out because South Carolina just hired away Kendall Briles, solving your biggest problem without looking like the bad guy. But yeah, like from a TCU perspective, it's like it is concerning in the sense that Josh Hoover not playing in this game has entered the portal. Most likely, I think, is going to be the quarterback next year at Indiana. Worst of luck to him. Hope he does horrible there. I hope Indiana goes back to the Indiana of old whenever he heads there. But we've seen this formula before of a TCU quarterback in Ken Seals this game being his final game that of his entire career and starting. We saw it with Bram Kohlhausen whenever Oregon went up big in the first half and he let him back. It seems like there's some magic when it comes to TCU that your starting quarterback, he hasn't really started a game for you at all. His first start on your team is the Alamo Bowl, but from everything I've seen on this team, from whether it be Eric McAllister, who's going to be an NFL wide receiver, saying I'm for sure playing in this game, because like he sees the guys fired up. Ken Seals being an SEC starter at one point and just being content being in Fort Worth. I think he, because of his like family's history, I think this is going to be a banger of a game. You see TCU 6.5. I'm taking the 6.5. Granted, biased, of course, but if you want to sprinkle a little bit on the money line, like I say, heavily look at it. I think when you look at a backup quarterback in this kind of still running this Kendall Briles system, I think there's going to be some things open for him. And I think he's going to perform, like, I think relatively well. So I'm taking TCU the points. I'm taking them a little bit on the money line as well. I think, I don't know. And also too, just throwing this one out there, very familiar with Lincoln Riley's system. Garrett Riley was our offensive coordinator.
Also fired.
Also fired today. But very familiar, I guess, with this offensive system. And so I think this one's just going to be a banger of a game. I think both teams really, really, really want this. And I'm super excited for it. I'm so excited. I think it's just gonna be a banger of a game.
Yeah, I think you said something that's, I mean, completely subjective to some extent, but you called this a ball nowhere bowl game. I think it is. I feel like I always Alamo Bowl, absolutely ball nowhere game because you're going to get big enough brands that you get sort of casual buy-in, but it does seem like it delivers more often than not. The Pop-Tarts Bowl, which I absolutely delivered this year, I feel like though it still has to earn its slot there a little bit. I feel like it was not a ball nowhere bowl. They smartly invested in the right marketing, and it is this year. It was, but I don't know if I give it a seat on the council, but not necessarily the rank of ball nowhere bowl just yet. I need one more year of delivery, but like Cheez-It, I think ball nowhere bowl generally delivers, and Duke's Mayo also. I feel like if I'm watching bowl games, I know that Alamo, Cheez-It, and Duke's Mayo more often than not are going to deliver some ball nowhere games. So excited to get into those, but I am also with you. You know, I love picking both these teams on the weekend spread. They pop up all the time on my parts when they are not on the main slate. Bobby loved putting USC on the main slate this year, though, for some reason. I feel like we picked them 5 or 6 times on the main slate. Probably 4 or 5, but it felt like 5 or 6. So we are no strangers to these teams. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm riding TCU money line in this one. I just feel like I have, as an OU fan, I just know that one thing I shouldn't count on is Lincoln Riley getting his guys up for meaningless games. And I think you have the right read, in my opinion, on Sonny Dykes. I think Lincoln Riley is broadly in the same situation. It's not necessarily a hot seat, but these games matter, even though they don't matter, because it contributes to your postseason win percentage. That's one of those big, like, I don't want to say KPIs, but it's one of those big stats, right? That you can hold up and say, like, it's possibly the only thing keeping, PJ Fleck in his rule at Minnesota is the fact that the man is infallible in the postseason. 7-0 in the postseason is an insane stat, especially in a place like Minnesota. You have, like, flip side of the coin, Brent Venables is now 0-4, 0-5.
Jeez.
Or 0-3. He's 0-3 in the postseason.
Yeah.
Confusing OU's playoff record with Brent Venables. But also, again, like, you have these wonderful seasons, but it's one of those things that you can isolate. Like you isolate ranked wins, you isolate, if someone has
Yeah.
an inordinate amount of home losses. Postseason win percentage is absolutely up there because these are the games that matter. And I think for both these guys, they matter a lot. I think Lincoln Riley potentially needs this one more than Sonny Dykes in terms of just boosting that percentage. But I will never count on a Lincoln Riley getting a team up to buy into something like this. And that's not to diminish. This is a massive game. It's a massive game for everyone that gets to play in it. It's a very respectable, very serious bowl game. I've seen Lincoln Riley not get his guys up for playoff games. So it's like I like some of those OU teams, if they didn't have Baker Mayfield on them, I don't know if anyone would have been getting those guys up for those games. Like you can't just go in there and yell and be excited. It takes more than that. There's nuance to it, and I just don't know. So this is more of a vote of confidence against him because I generally like both these teams. But yeah, give me the Horned Frogs outright in this one. Then on New Year's Eve day, because it's at like 10 a.m., we have the ReliaQuest Bowl, Iowa versus Vanderbilt down in Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. I assume that Pavia is playing in this one.
Yes, I think he's playing, but like we don't know if this is his final game because he says he's declaring for the NFL draft. But he's also in a lawsuit right now fighting for another year of eligibility. So I have no idea. Just the classic Diego Pavia experience. I have no idea what this guy is up to, but I think he plays. Like, I know he's going to go to the NFL, but if at best he is a day 3 guy, like in that, like somebody takes a hit on, he probably goes undrafted. It's so sad to me. The Diego Pavia experience. I loved him at New Mexico State. I loved him early Vanderbilt, but this really shows it's all about overexposure. I've been exposed way too much to Diego Pavia. We've put a microphone in his face a little too much. Like this guy just but this is going to be a banger of a game. Like, it's going to be great. It's like, I think the only big opt out for Vanderbilt's Eli Stowers because he's going to be a first round guy. Iowa has a good amount of opt outs on the offensive line and on the defensive line and stuff like that. But Kirk Ferentz always comes into these games well prepared. He's one of those guys that he's always playing to win. So I'm like, this one sneaky, I think is going to be very good. Could potentially be low scoring. I feel like this has like 14-10 written all over it. But yeah, potentially Diego Pavia's last game, maybe pending lawsuit.
My thing with Iowa is, and I don't mean this to sound disrespectful toward Iowa, but they just give me that like, I hate using the term like blue collar, but that like lunch pail, like work ethic towards football where I don't think they're like at all. Like, I don't think they're seeing this as a different game. Like this is the same as like a mid-September conference game for them or something. Like they're just going to come in here, do what they need to do. It does worry me that maybe some of the players have never seen a city as large and as developed as Tampa. So that could interfere with Iowa, but I don't know. At the same time, like Tampa is dangerously close to Miami for Diego Pavia. Like I could also see him just disappearing and fully intending to play and then pulling like a Antonio Brown and they just find him like they're looking for him pregame and then they tune into the Masked Singer live and there he is jumping around on stage or doing something like that. Like you check his story and he's in Miami blowing the remainder of his NIL. On like a Lamborghini yacht with Conor McGregor or something absurd. Like he's
definitely meeting up with Johnny Manziel while he's in Florida.
Everything is on the tape. Yeah, that's really the main thing that he secured out of this is, and I don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but he's gained Johnny Manziel and Theo Vaughn as stepfathers, which is like the worst possible combination. And I am increasingly convinced, not by his behavior, but by his appearance, that Coach O is his actual father. If you look at pictures, it's
striking,
and those are distinct looking individuals. So it's who knows.
But
But yeah, I like Vandy. I see this is a
yeah,
classic. Jameson would lose his mind if we were picking this one for the weekend spread because I did this whole bit
we
about
just trash on Vanderbilt and we're
how
like, oh yeah, Vandy.
obvious,
I think at
like
the end of the day is
yeah, if Johnny Manziel were 6 inches shorter and had no skill, it would be Diego Pavia. But it's he's done tremendous things at this team, and I just like in a bowl game, tighter spread. I like the team that I know is going to put up points on people more than an Iowa team. Which
yeah.
brings us to sunny El Paso, Texas, for the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, where we have my beloved Arizona State Sun Devils versus the Duke Blue Devils. So, sort of very fitting that the matchup of hell is in El Paso. I don't disagree. I think maybe a lot of the ASU people would disagree that El Paso is remarkably sunny. I guess it is on a national average, but another game that I'm actually pretty excited for. I like the coaching matchup in this one.
Yeah.
I think ASU the should have a fairly easy time winning this one, even with Sam Levitt out and sort of pulling the Josh Hoover entering into the portal. Duke 8-5, ASU 8-4. Duke actually favored by 3 points in
Mhm.
this one.
Yeah, I think like if the concerns with Arizona State and why they're not favorites here is just they have so many opt outs, like so many guys going into the NFL draft. Jordan Tyson, your best receiver, he's not playing. Sam Levitt also like he was already injured, but going into the portal, and so it just really comes down. It's like a common I think thread on the weekend spread is how much do you trust Jeff Sims to win you a game. I usually say no, but he actually ended up doing like a decent job in relief at ASU. Like ASU really could have fallen off of a cliff once Sam Levitt went down, and they were still competitive. And you're right, like this is so much more than the players on the field. It's more of a coaching matchup in my mind. Like Manny Diaz has honestly done a like talk about the best PR you could ever have with getting fired from Miami. It wasn't really because of his performance. They just wanted Mario Cristobal, and then he ends up winning a ACC title before Mario Cristobal does at Duke of all places. Like this guy seems to know how to coach. He knows how to coach well. I think is honestly a little underrated. Like I know he wasn't doing it at Miami, but I always appreciate guys that can go into a Duke and make them can make them a serviceable team. Granted, like they did have a lot of losses this year in the like the non-conference, but wrapped it up enough to win a ACC title. I'm excited to see this one. I think I would take Arizona State just because I think Kenny Dillingham. It just seems like any game where it's if I have to choose between the coaches, it seems like he's one of the best top 5, top 10 out there doing it right now. I'm gonna edge Arizona State. Probably not gonna actually bet this one just because there is a lot of shakiness when it comes to the Arizona State side of who's playing and who's not. But yeah, I just think Kenny Dillingham's that good of a coach. I think they keep it close, and I think this game is entertaining.
Yeah, those are my only real talking points on this one. Excited to watch it 2 p.m. Not an awesome time
Mm.
slot, but I both these coaches are such solid guys and such solid coaches. It's I think Manny Diaz has another power four job in his future for sure. Not saying he's trying to leave, but at the same time, Kenny Dillingham is just done tremendous things. He is so invested in this ASU team. He had very very like not he was on the short list. He had legitimate offers from some of these big schools
I think
that
Michigan would have
have
Michigan
gone
would
through
have
the
taken
coaching
him
carousel.
if he went through.
I think it would have been a very serious conversation. And it's, I am thinking now, you mentioned something about how all of these teams have looked around and found it so hard to hire people. We are kind of funny enough in that period of the coaching carousel of the silly season where no one's really made a bad hire because you're only getting the PR spends. People have made some terrible hires. Some of these big
Yep.
schools are about to realize they've made some terrible hires and some terrible decisions. I like some of these schools are going to be regretting letting people go. Michigan, obviously not. That wasn't the situation there, and in letting Sharon Moore go. But it's some of these schools have made some terrible hires. And we're going to find out like week 4 or 5 next year. You're going to know who made a terrible hire. But yeah, Kenny Dillingham, awesome coach. I'm going to ride with the Sun Devil Dogs down in San Antonio or El Paso. One of
Man,
those double name
yep.
Texas Texas border
It's
towns.
like the major city in Texas that is not in the same time zone as
Yeah.
everywhere else in Texas.
I think football and I think alternate place, so I think UTSA. But that brings us to the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. See who's feeling the cheesiest down in Orlando. Michigan and Texas, which I think is actually a very uninspiring matchup, but I think a
I
lot
think
of
this is
casuals will be tuning in.
yeah, this like it has the look of blue bloods going against each other. I could not be less interested, honestly, in a matchup. We got Michigan, who is just in complete disarray. I think with the opt outs, like Bryce Underwood is still going to play, but you have Biff Poggi coaching this team, a athletic department that's just an absolute shambles. It took them way too long to get a coach. I think they ended up similar to, I guess, maybe Penn State. It's like you ended up getting a better hire than I thought you would based on the amount of time you waited. Like I think Kyle Whittingham, like that's a good hire. I don't think like I could easily see it being like he goes like 9-3 most seasons and just doesn't get another contract. Like I think they got a floor raiser there, maybe not necessarily going to lead them back to a national title, but look, this game just doesn't interest me. I'm like out of the two programs, Michigan has more people playing, but it's like you have Biff Poggi, you have all this Sharon Moore stuff surrounding the program that just feels like bad juju. And then you have Texas, who I don't know how hard they are going to play in this game. I don't. Like they on paper, they really don't have that many opt-outs. They have a good amount of guys in the transfer portal. Like they don't have a running back like Wisner, Baxter, Gibson. Those three guys, those are RB1 through 3, all in the portal right now. So you don't really have a run game, but at least you have Arch and some of those guys playing. But how do you get excited for the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl when you were preseason number 1? Like that's just I don't
Yeah.
I feel like this is a stay away game. Like this is an absolute stay away game for me. Looking at the spread, what do we have here? 7 in Texas's favor. I don't know. I don't trust him enough to cover a 7-point spread where I just don't know where this Texas motivations are. I don't know where Steve Sarkisian's head's at right now. I don't.
Yeah.
This game looks sexier than it actually is, and I think it's just going to ultimately be a very boring bowl game.
Yeah, two of supposedly were going to be the two of the best quarterbacks in college football. If you look at preseason I think like if you told someone in July that we would be looking at a Texas versus Michigan matchup in late December in the postseason, I think most reasonable people would assume, okay, Michigan punched above their weight a little bit or punched above their expectations a little bit, and we're seeing a playoff game. That is, obviously, Texas beat OU, so acknowledge that as an OU fan, but both these teams have underperformed expectations. Michigan 9-3, although they feel much worse if
They
you
feel a
really
lot
think
worse.
about it. They're really don't have a terrible loss. I guess USC is probably their
But
least excusable loss, but that's not
I feel like
really that terrible.
they're on the same caliber. I feel like as USC, it's like
Yeah,
good teams but flawed. Like they
yeah,
definitely have very very big flaws, but still good.
yeah. Texas obviously has an atrocious loss on their schedule with Florida, so it's I don't know. To me, again, it's I guess I'm gonna watch it, but it's in the name. It's the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, and this game to me is about as appealing as eating citrus and Cheez-Its at the same time. It just doesn't sound. It's like yes, I love oranges. Yes, I love Cheez-Its, not at the same time. And it's like yes, I love college football. Yes, I love watching big brands go at it. This just isn't the combo. It's given me kind of the same taste as Indiana, Alabama, but that one at least has big consequence that I want to tune in and watch. This one is it's just got everything going for it, or it should. It's in a game that I said was a ball nowhere game, but it's just, I don't know. I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope this is an absolute shootout. I hope Arch looks like preseason Arch. I hope Bryce looks like preseason expectations Bryce, and we just get an absolute shootout between these teams. But I feel like this is stanky. I feel like this is a take the under game.
Yep. Yeah.
What is the over under? The over under is 48.5. I still like the under in that.
Under.
I feel like it's going to be stinky. I feel like someone's going to have it won the entire time, but it's going to be like a 10-point game. I think it's going to be like a 24-14 or something. But anyways, moving on to not more exciting match. The SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl at Allegiant Stadium.
To the desert.
3:30 p.m. on ESPN. We got Nebraska versus the Utah Utes. I saw Matt Rule riding a zip line a bunch on social media earlier in the week. Do you know what's up with that, Blake?
I guess one of the bowl activities, like I feel like the Tim Robinson meme of him on the zip line was just being used like no other. I'll keep this one short because I'm not going to glaze this team. Utah's going to murder them.
It's a 14-point line.
And I would still take Utah. I think they just kill them. Like, I know that people, maybe some of the casuals, are scared off by Whittingham going to take the Michigan job, but they've had Utah's defensive coordinator, Morgan Scalley. He's been the head coach in waiting for like years. So like, this isn't your typical like, oh, this guy's an interim. Nope. They've been preparing for him to be the head coach for Utah for quite some time. Too many opt-outs for Nebraska. I think the Dylan Raiola injury really hurts them. This team is just limping into bowl season. Don't trust Matt Rule in these games. I think Utah rolls them.
Yeah, you just look at Nebraska and their resume on the season. Like when they've played anyone with a pulse and some people without, they just lose they
get smashed.
It's a bad 6-6. That sounds like a crazy thing to say. Or they're 7-5, I guess. They're a bad 7-5. They're not. I don't know if there's like a good 7-5. I'm not trying to say like, oh, SEC or Big Ten or whatever, but they're a bad 7-5. This is not an excusable. Like they put up stinkers against like Michigan, I guess, fairly decent performance, but like Minnesota. Like Penn State, the second to last game of the season, Penn State when they still hadn't hired anyone, and they were just,
you did it perfect earlier. You were saying that like there were some coaches that were hired like in this I guess like coaching search time that are just going to be horrific and are going to look so bad in the next year. This one's not a hire, but a big extension. I think that Matt Rule extension is going to look bad. I think it's going to look really bad in about a year or two, where they were kind of bidding against nobody. It's like if Penn State wants to take Matt Rule, I think you can go find another Matt Rule type that can get Arkansas to 7-5. Like, he's had great resources, had Raiola before he got injured, and they were still not looking great. I don't know. I feel like that one's going to go down as why did we extend this guy? Really, what was the demand on the market to pay Matt Rule this much when he's only taking us at best to like 8-4 seasons?
Yeah, and that's the thing with Nebraska specifically is like, and I don't want to disrespect some of these teams on the schedule. Like, there's no easy wins in college football, but like 7-5 is, when you look at the people they played, Cincy, I think, okay win for who they were, but then they beat Akron. They beat someone called HCU Huskies. I don't know
Houston Christian. Yeah, they used to be Houston Baptist, and just recently rebranded as a university.
Yeah, they beat Michigan State. They beat just barely Maryland. They beat Northwestern, and they beat stank UCLA. It's like, you can't, like, with the schedule that the Big Ten pitches them every year, because there is so much fluff, they're just kind of in that, like, you're sorry, we're gonna have to sacrifice you to like one or two solid teams. Like next year, they play Illinois, they probably lose that one. They play Iowa, they probably lose that one. They play Indiana, they definitely lose that one. They play Ohio State, they definitely lose. Washington, who knows? Oregon, they definitely lose. Like it's anyone, I think, is going 7-5 with the institution of Nebraska there, and that's certainly not what they expected with Matt Rule. So yeah, I think that's one of those that not necessarily part of the coaching carousel, but was affected by it, and I don't know that it's going to age amazingly.
Don't think so at all either.
But more excitingly, finally, an exciting matchup. Friday, January 2nd, the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl at Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We got Rice versus our beloved Boco, Texas State, at TCU's home stadium. Not at the TCU stadium, though, because that's not at TCU, at Amon G. Carter.
Yeah, Rice's quarterback was, I think, pretty good for them sitting out this game. Not too many notes on this one. I think Texas State rolls. I feel like Texas State, they are built for games like this. I see a 14.5-point spread, which is kind of scary. Texas State probably should never be that big of a favorite. I don't care if it's against like the school of the blind. Like you can't trust this team. But yeah, I don't know. The line movement has been crazy in their favor. I think, yep, I just feel like Texas State cleans up.
Yeah, it's interesting matchup. You know, you get the sort of Duke versus ASU dynamic of, ultimate party school versus academics focused, especially in state. This is a, tremendous, I think, in the state of Texas matchup, which is really neat, and really neat for both fan bases that they're getting to play in Fort Worth. But yeah, I like Boco in this one, but this is a bit of an avoid game.
Yep.
Game that I am very excited.
I will say, looking at the opt-outs, it's insane. So Rice's starting quarterback, transfer portal. So is their backup. Their starting quarterback, after that, I guess, says he's still on the team, but says he won't play in the bowl game. So they're now down to potentially their fourth-string quarterback. So
yeah, you start to get to a 14-point line, pretty justifiable at that point. Okay, so next one that I am excited for. My beloved midshipmen facing off against Cincinnati. I think this is a decent matchup. I think Navy is the better team, obviously not dealing with opt-outs or portals, but I think Navy is a better team, but I think this is a solid matchup, and that is, of course, the AutoZone Liberty Bowl at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium in Memphis, Tennessee, 4:30 Eastern Time. It is a 7-point line in favor of my midshipmen.
Yeah, this Cincinnati just has too much in the portal right now. That's a little concerning. It's like obviously the big one off the bat's Brendan Sorsby, and it felt like he was kind of the straw that stirred that drink there the entire season. It was like they were going as far in games as his legs. Honestly, it wasn't even his arm; it was his legs can take him. Like he was having to do everything for this team, uplifting them, and so you're missing him. You're missing about all like. And I guess this isn't as impactful for Navy as much, but they have been throwing a little bit more. Like their entire secondary is just like all their starting safeties. They're one of the best corners all in the portal. Like they have nobody on the back end there. And so when you have this upheaval and tons of players in the portal, the last teams you want to be playing in a bowl game is the service academies. And they're difficult to prep for. You really have to game plan for them. And if you game plan for them and have decent talent, you can beat them. But we saw it we saw UConn kind of do the same thing where they lose their head coach, lose their offensive coordinator, their quarterback's in the portal. You kind of have like all these question marks around the team, and then Army just comes and like absolutely ragdolls them. I think this is gonna kind of be the same thing. I think Navy just like takes advantage of a team that is just really missing a lot of pieces right now. Probably doesn't care about it as much, and they just like drag them. I think this one I feel pretty confident on, and the spread says so. Like, what is it? It's 7.5. So like
7. Yeah.
7.5. Like they definitely do see Navy as like a heavy favorite, but it just feels like a nightmare scenario for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I am a little worried as a Navy fan. One, because I care, so I'm emotionally invested in the outcome of this one, but am a little worried looking forward because this is a very senior heavy Navy offense. That is to some extent a positive for this game because this is going to be the first time that a lot of these guys don't have, especially the football players. You get a lot of off-cycle classes at the Naval Academy, particularly the athletes that have to travel a lot because they can't really flex the academics in the same way that other schools can. So you get some of the athletes and stuff having to take off cycle because their summers are committed to practice to some extent, but then they also have to go out on ships, go out to aircraft squadrons, and essentially intern. So you get a lot of guys doing a lot of winter intercession classes and stuff, especially the athletes. So this is going to be a time where guys, a lot of the seniors that lead this offense in particular, the first time that they've ever not had academics, including in the bowl season. So that's going to be tremendous for guys like Hobarth. But yeah, I think it's pretty solidly Navy. 7-point spread. I understand why Vegas is a little low on it. You would expect it to be higher. Still Service Academy. Navy has moved away from the triple option. We've run the Wing T, I think it's called, for the past 2 years under Brian Newberry, who has done just an insane job. Like it's a tremendous example of making a bold move. Hiring wise, Ken Niumatalolo was at Navy for forever, was tremendous, but his last 3-4 years were not good. And Brian Newberry took over, I think 5-7 his first year, but then 10-3 last year, including a win over OU in a bowl game, thanks to Bobby Howard.
Sealed it.
Horrific jinx I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yes.
Potentially second most. This year is being investigated. But
we do need to teach Bobby just to, when OU's up, just shut up. Don't say anything. You celebrating 2 hours before the game ends does not help.
The thing is, he got away with it. So he learned his lesson in the bowl game against Navy, but then he got away with it so much with the Thunder that he was like, oh, no, I'm invincible. I can do this. I can jinx stuff. It's not going to have any effect. And then he jinxes stuff horrifically. But yeah, if Navy can cap off this season with a win and go 11-2 this year, and I understand, right? It's Navy schedule. They, lost against the two really solid teams they played. I understand. But it's 11-2 to 10-3 at Navy is an insane record, especially when you take over. Like Brian Newberry has been there 3 years now. The guys you're not transferring in and out. Like is still dealing with Ken Niumatalolo recruits, still dealing with all of the stuff that you have there. This is such a perfect matchup for an awesome cap off to the season. So very excited. And hope that Navy can get it done. Up next, we have our last self-described Ball Knowers Bowl of the season, and that is the Duke's Mayo Bowl, which I think kind of invented the modern corporate slop, shameless advertisement. Pop-Tarts has certainly sort of perfected it in that sort of overt sales way where people know they're being sold to, but they feel like they're in on it, so they're okay with it. Duke's Mayo, like they've been planting people in the crowd. I remember when they were trying to pedal off a few years ago, the random quote unquote person in the crowd dumping mayo on themselves as some sort of organic thing. Like that's clearly some dude you hired. Like quit trying to peddle that off as organic. That's not, this man is coming up in a Duke's Mayo shirt that's not even commercially available.
Yeah, I was like
ripping it off and pouring mayo on himself. And you're going to try to guerrilla advertise this on Instagram as this is just some sort of random person. We're going to see Mississippi State facing off against Wake Forest in this one, which I think is a fairly solid matchup, actually. And great location, Charlotte, North Carolina. Excellent location for both fan bases. at 8 Eastern. I'm excited for it, but yeah, there's going to be some shameless corporate slop.
Yeah, the slop is definitely you said it perfectly. It's like the Duke's Mayo Bowl walked so the Pop Tarts Bowl could run. Like they just kind of co-opted the script and Pop Tarts realized it's like, oh, you could just do all of this type of stuff at a bowl game. Like, yeah, we can do this. But a sneaky, like we said, this is a ball knowers bowl, and really this is a great, like honestly a great matchup. I feel like Wake Forest doesn't get the shine because maybe it's not the big, it's one of the smaller brands in the P5 in the ACC. But what Jake Dicker he was at Washington State last year has done in his first year at Wake Forest looks fantastic. Like they look like a very solid team that is just kind of in the infancy of really what he could do there. Like I could see Wake Forest eventually, maybe in 2-3 years period of time, like potentially contending for an ACC championship. I don't think that's outlandish when 7-5 Duke won it, but then on the other end you have Mississippi State, and although 5-7, like most 5-7 teams opted out of potential bowls, you can tell like Mississippi State loves to play, and they played with a lot of heart this year. It's like what they lacked in talent and just going up against better competition in the SEC. You can tell that these guys really care. Like they really care about playing football. So I think this one's just going to be a sneaky banger of a matchup. Mississippi State fired their defensive coordinator and then rehired their fired coach as defensive coordinator, which is just a weird thing, but I don't think that really affects that much in this game. We're not seeing many opt-outs. We're not seeing many transfer portal guys. I think this is just going to be good football. It's two teams that really care and want to be there. So I think this game is just going to deliver on all fronts.
Yeah, we talked about being a bad 7-5 with Nebraska. Mississippi State is, and this is not an SEC thing. Mississippi State, I think, is a solid 7-5. I think they're a good 5-7.
They're like an elite 5-7.
Yeah,
they are.
if you have like an NIT of 5-7 teams, Mississippi State is dangerous.
Yes.
That matchup. I mean, it could have won against Texas. Is Texas good? Is Texas not? Depends on the week. But it's like Mississippi State has the tools there, and they've become a dangerous 5-7 in the fact that they are 5-7. So no one's trying to hollow them out. So they've been able to retain guys. Like if they were just won 2 more games, if they had won Texas and then I guess like what's another winnable game? Florida. They lost Florida by 2 points.
Yeah, that was
a winnable game. Like if they're 7-5, they're maybe getting hollowed out. And they're not great in the bowl game. I think Wake obviously doing some stuff here, but I like Mississippi State in this one. I'm picking a 5-7 SEC team against an 8-4 ACC team. I understand that, but Vegas has Mississippi State as the favorite by 3 points. I think it's just a perfect confluence of stuff.
They really care.
Hard spot to build something. Yeah, but they care. And I think you're going to see a fired up team. I think Jeff Levy gets his guys fired up. They have everything to play for. The difference between finishing 5-8 and 6-7 is pretty significant. I understand it doesn't sound like it is, but that is pretty significant. Especially nowadays, like 6-7, that's huge. That's huge for you. So once again, it has come up organically on the pod, but yeah, I don't know. I like
Levy's Levy's done a great job. It's like going from year one where you're just the doormat of the SEC to a team that you actually have to respect.
Yeah, they were still the doormat.
They were still the doormat, but like like they were respectable. Like you had to treat them seriously,
to watch.
Or and that really that's a major improvement for Mississippi State. I bet Mississippi State fans want a little bit more, but really it's the hardest situation in the SEC. I don't even I thought it was Vanderbilt, but now Vanderbilt runs laps around you. It's like they've now weaponized Nashville to its fullest potential to really help them out. So you're not weaponizing Starkville anytime soon.
We'll see what Vanderbilt is next year, because that may have been a flash in the pan. But
they got the number 1 quarterback recruit in the nation coming there next year. So
quarterbacks don't get developed anymore, though.
I know.
So I don't know if that's a good thing. I think that might be another. Imagine if Nico went somewhere where he would just get negative develop. Like there's so many 5 stars have underperformed. But
Right.
rolling into the last bowl game of the season, the Trust and Will Holiday Bowl, which was after the
Crazy
holidays
name.
on Friday, January 2nd. Is that a company or is that like
I don't
a
know. Is it just like generally like you know how they will like different lobbies will just like sponsor products, not
yeah,
necessarily like avocados from Mexico. It's not like you're buying from company
yeah,
avocados
it's
from
like
Mexico, but
let's
is
see.
it just like generally like all these attorneys have come together and it's like we want people to do trust and wills, so they
I
use our
don't
service like
'cause I feel like that's a pretty low margin, low that seems like that's not a very profitable, thing for an attorney to be involved in, so I would hope not. I'm gonna have to dive down the rabbit hole real quick if you could give a brief primer on the 9-3 Arizona Wildcats who are favored by 2.5 over the 8-4 SMU Mustangs, while I try to figure out who exactly is sponsoring this game at Snapdragon Stadium.
Yeah, so good thing about this is I think there's a good amount of players playing on both sides. Like we'll get to see Kevin Jennings play for SMU, RJ Maryland, like their top tight end, he's out. We got a few other guys I think in the portal, but for the most part everybody is playing and I just feel like this game feeds into Arizona's hands. SMU, I feel like although you get Kevin Jennings playing, I think has just always been a shaky team this entire year. Like even with the win versus Miami, I just don't trust them. And I think Arizona, they are not elite. They do not beat elite teams, but what they do is they beat good to like average teams at a very consistent rate. So I think this one, Noah Fafita, I think he probably has a year left. I like the continuity of what we see on Arizona's side. I think they were kind of a sneaky team in the Big 12 that nobody was talking about just because you had some programs above them, but they are a very, very, very solid team. I think they beat SMU pretty handily. Helps also too that they're on the West Coast.
Yeah,
Did you
looks like
find any?
Trust and Will is like it's like TurboTax for wills,
Okay.
which is that's not obviously not what they call themselves because that's a completely different thing. But it's like you can just go on
Like make it
trustandwill.com
easy. Yeah, like it makes it
and
like
set
you can
up
kind of do it yourself.
a trust or a will, which seems we're not gonna open ourselves up to that liability, but
Yeah.
it's one of the things that you can do. I guess if you're not around, you're not around, so it doesn't really matter. You're not going to know anyways. But will your will be executed in accordance with your desires?
Hey, Bobby said
Unclear.
just don't get canceled on this
So
show.
he
He
did
didn't
not
say
say.
anything about getting sued,
Yes.
so
Yes. So he is in fact liable. He's signed that he is liable for anything we say. But yeah, I Arizona, I think, is going to be who I ride with it in this one, and it really comes down to I don't really know anything about either team. Um, a decent game, like it's
yeah.
it's one that I'll definitely. I mean, last college football game of the season, you got to watch it. Decent time slot on Fox, so I'll definitely tune in. But I think Arizona is just they're the favorites. So I'm going to ride with that. They got a number next to their name. I'm going to go full casual on that. But um, at least to me, it's a more appealing matchup than Michigan versus Texas, at least. So, but I don't know, Blake. Do you have anything else on this bowl season? Any saved talking points? Don't go through your unsaved. I don't need to hear everything. Any saved talking points before we wrap up this hefty pod for some reason.
Yeah. I think this bowl season, honestly, it's delivered in the sense that I don't think like game to game you're going to have some weird lopsided blowouts and stuff like that. But if you're just always keeping your eyes on the box scores, we have had some bowl games that have been absolutely fantastic. We surprised it took to like an hour and 40 minutes here to mention it, but like that Hawaii bowl on Christmas Day was just peak,
Ooh.
peak, just peak college football, and we had BYU and Georgia Tech delivered in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and so although there isn't like every single game is not going to be each team giving their best effort, we still have some gems hidden here, and I think towards these later bowls and stuff like that, where it's not really involving G5 programs that have been gutted yet and stuff like that, I think we have a solid college football watching week ahead of us.
Yeah, it's been, I think, a good season overall. If you just listen to the doom and gloom talking points of portal, NIL, and everything else, I think that's the portal. Like, it's, I don't know if there's a good fix because of the academic year, but it's, if you look at the product that's being put out, the bowl games this year, game over game, I don't think have been notably worse than they were before the portal and NIL. It's bowls, as soon as the playoff came around, and really arguably even before that, they were kind of already on the decline in terms of the amount that every single person cared about them. There was always opt-outs, there was always everything else. I think this has been a very solid bowl season, and I think we will continue to see. I mean, like you talked about, that Hawaii game was,
Insane.
I mean, arguably college football game of the season so far. The way that ended, like everyone being like, "Why are you zero timeouts? Like, why are you gunning for the touchdown here? Just take it to overtime." Like, if that was, I mean, if it was an incomplete, I guess they get to kick. But like something goes wrong there, you just straight up lose that game because you were
Yeah.
gunning for, like, backup quarterback comes in
Backup
for
quarterback.
one play, just absolute dime in a
And he
double
has to,
coverage. Like, it
that's the thing,
was,
is he has to thread it. Like if he under or overthrows that, like that
yeah, that dude was
could
not open.
potentially
That
screw
dude,
you. Like
that was a perfect. That was a big, like, big leagues are calling. Like, insert meme. That was zero pressure. Just walked out there cold. Didn't stare down his guy. Didn't, just walked out there like he was Tom Brady throwing to a wide open Gronk or something. Just zero hesitation. Backup comes in one play. Hey, bro, we got 15 seconds. You got zero timeouts. We need to kick a field goal to take this to overtime. We're going to give you one 30-something yard shot into the end zone into double coverage to see what happens. He's all right. Boom. Like a walk off. That was some of the
insane.
best. But yeah, the Pop Tarts Bowl was tremendous. There's been so many other really solid. I mean, from an OU fan's perspective, that game was terrible. From other people's perspective, right? The OU Bama game. If you're a Bama fan, that was great. You know, there's been so many really solid games. We have so many. Like, don't let the playoff distract you. Don't let the top end being meh distract you from
Yeah.
like the gyms that are in there. So. All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for tonight. I
Is
hope
this our
everyone had
last
a.
pod of the season?
I
Are we
guess I don't
going
know if
back
we were
to,
supposed. I don't
are
know if
we
we were
just
supposed to
signing
clear
off?
out the bowl games, but we went ahead and did a whole 2 hours, just clear everything out. Did Bobby say to clear them out?
He
Said
did. I feel like
no.
he
He
did
said
say
through
through New
January
Year's. So
2nd, which is the
yeah,
last. No, we have other playoff games in the national championship.
yeah.
So silly us, unless we get like Bama, unless Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, and what's the other matchup I'm missing?
Ohio State,
Texas Tech. Unless Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas, if that 4 combination wins, Blake and I will probably not appear on another podcast the rest of
yep.
the season because that's maximum evil. I'm not dealing with, if there's all red teams in the semifinals. You will not see Blake and I on here most likely because that is just absolute evil. But yeah, with that, I think that wraps Blake and I up for the night. We hope you enjoyed. Thank you for tuning into the Schooner Pod, and tune in next time we do a video, which is, I don't know when, for some number of us that is yet to be determined, discussing, I guess, the next round of playoff games.
If not, we're signing off for the
If
2025
not,
season.
you will see us mysteriously disappear for a month or two, like Bobby did last season, in protest, and then I guess you'll see Bobby and Jameson doing some basketball stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna keep dragging this on, Blake. You actually have to end it. I cannot end it on my end.
Okay, perfect.